Welcome to Eurofins ViraCore Clinical Diagnostics Podcast, where I'll be sharing up-to-date scientific advances, key diagnostic testing, and our most recent innovations. This is our aim is to connect with transplant professionals at this event while always staying patient-focused. Our aim is interviews aren't limited to any one profession. A diverse so whether you're a physician, lab director, transplant coordinator, patients, and even doctors or even the patient, also recipients, we would love to hear your voice. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, you can amplify your influence and tell your story. Summary on Amplify your influence on Transplant Radio. Enjoy episode 13 of our 15-part series.
Hi, this is Kevin Foth. We're at WTC2025 in lovely, sunny San Francisco, California. Excited to have Pesh Patel coming back. He was a guest last year when we were in Philadelphia, I think it was. That's a lovely city as well. Had a great conversation with Pesh. Pesh is a kidney transplant recipient. Really has a testament to the resilience, determination, and hope of a transplant recipient, a pre and post transplant recipient. And your background, if I remember correctly, you were formerly in the hospitality industry, traveling around the world and like this before you found out that you were in need of a kidney transplantation. And through that journey, you have started several philosophical organizations and foundations, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more and talk about what you've been doing since your first kidney transplant and the outreach that I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thank you so much for having me back. So it was last year in Philadelphia. We met, and a lot has transpired since then, but just to catch everybody back up, diagnosed with kidney disease in 2017. I actually crashed in a dialysis while I was in Australia for working on a project. Transplant 15 months later, August of 2018, and then unfortunately that kidney rejected February of 2021. So back on the transplant list. I'm unfortunately back on dialysis, but this time it's much better than the first time around, as instead of 3 times a week and 4 hours each session, I'm doing 2 times a week and 2.5 hours each session. Kind of negotiated with my nephrologist, if you will, and that's again one of the benefits of doing your own research and being empowered enough to be your own advocate, is to have these conversations and be a partner in your care, which I think is missing within the patient community, unfortunately.
I agree with you. I mean, we've had the opportunity here at WTC 2025 World Transplant Congress talking to a plethora of individuals, not only transplant recipients, but also folks that have had transplants but have then gone on to work in organizations or start organizations to support kidney patients, heart patients. I think we had a liver patient. I don't think we had any lung patients, but still a wide variety of individuals, and then the organizations they've started up. And one of yours that I remember from last year was called a Kidney Life, where you're committed to supporting individuals diagnosed with kidney disease and helping them with their journey towards better health and quality of life. Could you remind us a little bit about that? Remind me a little bit about it too.
Sure. So what started out as a newsletter, and I know you're a subscriber to the newsletter, but I also know that you haven't seen much in your inbox over the last few months. I have been slacking, but part of the reason is that I've got 2 new initiatives with a Kidney Life, and number one is Kidney Kids Day, and that's where I take pediatric kidney patients to a professional sporting event. Okay. Last year we did a Minnesota United soccer game, and we also did the New Orleans Pelicans NBA game. Now the thought behind this was, I know personally how big a role mental health plays in being a patient when you've been diagnosed with a chronic illness. And so my thought in creating this was, kids have a lot to deal with. It's hard for them just to be kids. So this would be an evening where I just want them to do that. Just be a kid. Don't worry about the treatments. Don't worry about the appointments. Don't worry about, what's going to happen next. Come out for a few hours, enjoy the game, enjoy being a kid, and that's it. And then also I bring a caregiver, one of the caregivers of that kiddo, to the game, because there is such a thing as caregiver fatigue, and that can often be overlooked. So I just want to encompass and involve everybody within this, and it's been a great success, and we've just started. So the goal is to do another 5 this year, and then move it up to 7 or 8.
Wonderful.
Next year.
And that's really amazing, because a lot of the conversations we've been having this year, I think last year we're talking about like donor chains and like that. But this year we've been talking a lot more about, you've got the patient, and everybody focuses on that transplant patient. They don't realize the larger community that's associated in the care, the follow-up, the maintenance of that patient. And you've got to have that community. And I found a word that I thought really described that, and it's the Hawaiian word ohana, which means family. And because that's really what it is. It's not blood family,
right?
But it's family members you choose to have around you, because it makes things more palatable for you. It makes that whole process easier. What you're doing, giving the kids a day off from their disease, or 4 or 5 hours from their disease, to realize that there are still fun things out there. I applaud you for that. But as you said too, caregiver fatigue. Everybody's focusing on that transplant recipient, but what about the other people that are involved in it? The parents, the brothers, the sisters, the cousins, whatever. In addition to the social workers, the transplant coordinators, the physicians doing the transplant themselves, and those following up. They need that support system as well as that transplant patient. So wonderful initiatives out there.
Yeah, thank you. And another thing I'm looking at, and I don't know quite yet how I'm going to work this, but I've heard from a few living donors that they are often forgotten about. They're celebrated leading up to the transplant, but then once they're discharged, the focus is on the transplant recipient, and people aren't aware that there are such things as postpartum depression.
Yes.
When it comes to a living donor. So I think there needs to be more focus put on these donor heroes after their procedure, not just once a year on Living Donor Day. I think there needs to be more emphasis and care, again, even from the mental health aspect, and any physical ailments that could present themselves.
Exactly, and that's one thing too that's remarkable, is that transition from donations primarily came from deceased donors. Strong initiative through all of the Department of Motor Vehicles and like this. You get your driver's license. Are you willing to be an organ donor? Check the little box, put it on your driver's license so people can see it. But then you have the people that step up and say, you know what? I'm healthy. I've got 2 kidneys. I know somebody that might need a kidney. They'll get tested for it. They may not be a match for that person, but it puts them into the system where they're then contacted by whatever recruitment organization it is to say, would you be consider donating to this person that you may not have met?
Right.
And that's wonderful. You got it for kidneys. Livers are fantastic. It can be a partial lobe, a full lobe of the liver.
Right.
Great thing about the liver is it will regenerate over time.
Sure.
Come back and be fully functional. I've even heard of some lung lobes being transplanted, especially into pediatric patients and such. In pediatrics, and going back to your kids, because they're little, you need a little organ to fit into that body.
That's right.
That is tremendous stuff. But how do you also do? You take these kids out for an evening, a little bit of fun. Let's forget about it. But what about other advocacy that you're doing through yourself and through your network of people to support the the pediatric population and the need of transplantation?
So I don't just do a one-off when I fly. So for example, October 11th weekend, I'm going to be in Denver going to an Avs game. So I'll fly in on a Thursday. Friday, I will walk the hospital, if you will. I want to speak to doctors. I want to speak to nurses. I want to speak to the patients and just get an overall view and do that. And then on Saturday, I'm going to make sure we do a donor drive to find people that want to be organ donors, and then have the event at night. So I want to utilize the time best as possible, and that's by educating and raising awareness. And then the next thing I'm doing is my second initiative, which I'm going to incorporate into Kidney Kids Day, maybe not this year, but starting next year, and that will be kidney screenings. 1 in 3 Americans are at risk for kidney disease, and 90% of those with kidney disease don't know they have it. People like me who crash into dialysis.
Right.
So I want to be proactive, especially now that HR1 has passed and Medicaid cuts are going to be happening. What can we do to be proactive and catch people before they have kidney disease? So not having Medicaid is not an issue. Let's get people healthy as possible, so that they're not in the condition I'm in, or I found myself in when I was in Australia. So that's another big one coming up with all the cuts that are happening. Like, okay, what can we do now?
Right.
Especially in the South, where it's more prevalent, and it's a socioeconomic issue too. So let's get some free kidney screenings out there, because if I can hold health fairs and give people access to nephrologists, cardiologists, get blood tests, get urine tests, get blood pressure mapped out, and then give them resources with education and let them know how prevalent a disease this is, then hopefully there's a ripple effect to help people.
That is a very powerful idea, and kind of gives me a little bit of goosebumps thinking about it. What could be, and here you are living that and working through it and making it from an idea into a reality.
I'm trying, and so let me turn the tables here for a second and ask you, Kevin, what does an advocate or a patient advocate mean to you?
For me, I mean, I come from the healthcare industry. I come from pretty much the laboratory side of healthcare. But, it's the individual that goes out there and they talk about the need, about the organ disparity that's out there in the world, even gender disparity out there in the world. And they dispel those myths. That, they lift the curtain, they allow that sunlight to come through and say it's not something that should be talked about in a sealed room.
Right.
It needs to be broadcast out to other people to make them aware of it. One thing you talked about, and I'm looking over, we've got a resident artist in our booth here at WTC.
Okay.
The gentleman's name is Donald Ross. His moniker is Scribe. And this is a gentleman over there. You can see him at the easel right now. But what he's doing, and if you look behind you, there's 2 portraits there. He's working on the 3rd portrait. He is a portrait artist, and he has artwork in a majority of the children's hospitals throughout the United States.
Oh, wow.
He's, he does this. He puts up murals on, bridges or buildings or whatever. It's a little whimsical and such. But what he's doing for us here is he's got 3 portraits that he's doing. The first one was for kidney. The second one is for heart. He's working on one right now for liver.
Okay.
And then the people that come to our booth scan a QR code, get entered in for a drawing, and at the end of every night we let the winner of that day's painting know who they are. Okay. And then they'll be able to take it home with them at the end of the day.
That's amazing.
So, that's another way I think of advocacy is, it's like it's not. It's breaking down that barrier, that stigma, that it should be talked about. Yep. It should be addressed. It should be in routine conversation. It's not just every 4 years, 6 years, or whatever the period is, checking that box on your driver's license saying, I want to be an organ donor. And you never hear about it.
Right.
You know,
right.
It should be out there. I mean, when I was younger and healthier, I was listed as an organ donor. Never had the opportunity. Now that I've got a few more miles underneath me, I'm right at the upper edge of being able to donate, but I'm still willing to to do that if it's at all possible. I started off part of my journey into the the healthcare industry. I'm clinical laboratory like this. I was working at a university in the Midwest, and they came to the laboratory and said, hey, we're starting up a liver transplant program. Who wants to be involved? I mean, I almost threw my shoulder out of joint when I was raising my hand so fast.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to work with those people in the OR suite for the first 27 liver transplants they did. And it was just remarkable seeing the pre-transplant, post-transplant person. We had one individual, I've told the story before, that when I saw him pre-transplant, he was pretty much bedfast. He had no energy. He just didn't want to move. It took so much to get stuff done. Saw him about 6 hours, 12 hours after his liver transplant. Walked in the room, expected to see him still in bed. He's sitting in an easy chair. He's got the game on the TV.
Love that.
He's kicked back, big old ear-to-ear grin on his face. He goes, I have not felt this great in so long.
Yeah.
And we talked. We had the honor of talking to an Allison Conklin earlier today.
Oh yeah, she just won a much-deserved award.
She won an advocacy award on that.
Yeah.
Heart transplant recipient. She didn't know anything about her health, or that there was actually a genetic condition within her family. And she was out. I think she said she was early teenager, out playing field hockey or like this, and it's just winded.
Yeah.
And couldn't catch your breath. They're like, oh, it's allergens, it's this, it's whatever. And they took her in and started looking at her, and found out that she had CMH, basically a large heart.
Right.
And then unfortunately about a year after she was diagnosed, she lost her mother to that disease. And since then, she's really become an advocate, a voice for people that, you think about people that, oh, I need a, I'm going to probably get in trouble for saying this, I need a liver. And people go, oh, you're probably an alcoholic.
Absolutely. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Substances or whatever damage your liver. No, the body will revolt every once in a while.
Correct.
Talked to another young lady, I'm not going to mention her name, but her family had a history of alpha-1 antitrypsin disease. So it's a hereditary disease passed down amongst family members. She was also a type 1 diabetic, so she had a dual kidney pancreas transplant.
Yeah.
The pancreatic transplant had resolved her type 1 diabetes. Still monitors it and follows it like that. Unfortunately, her kidney has started to decline, so she had a second kidney transplant.
Right.
But just I think the awareness, the advocacy, talking about what's possible, and removing that stigma that's been out there is really, really important. We talked to a gentleman from Sonora, down in Mexico.
Okay.
And one of his things, he's started up his group down there. He was saying that in Spain, it's about 49% of the population is signed up for organ donation. United States, it's around 48%. Down in Sonora, where he's from, it's like 4.8%.
Wow.
And it's getting breaking down that stigma of organ donation and how important it is and what it can do to the people. And they're really working on educating the people that you can donate your organs.
Yeah.
You don't have to take them with you and such, and that's a good thing to do.
Right. And there's also and you'll find this in this country a lot, and many others, and that is, in certain populations, the mistrust of the medical field itself.
Yes.
That plays a role. which again, the education comes into play, the myths associated, especially whether it's religion or other things, come into play. So, I mean, it's an uphill battle, but, we are here fighting it. And when I asked you the question about what patient advocacy or advocacy means to you, one of the reasons is that in this year, since we last spoke, one word that comes into my mind, unfortunately, is frustration.
Yes, I can see that.
And the frustration's two-sided. One is there are unfortunately people that call themselves an advocate just so they can get a free trip to DC from an organization. Mm-hmm. There are people who put that just so they have a title of some sort. And again, listen, anybody that wants to make a difference, I am here for it. I'm here to help you any way I can. But I don't want you to abuse the system, because then more mistrust will happen if somebody calls themselves an advocate, they get asked a question, don't know the answer.
Right.
Or are afraid to say, I don't know. Because I always tell people, if I don't have the answer, I'll find it for you.
Right.
But not many people are doing that. The second thing, and I'd love to get your take on this, for sure, yeah, this is a good...
I asked the gotcha questions, not you.
I'm not used to this from my hospitality background, but why is it so hard for, whether it's doctors or people in industry or anybody in this medical world, to respond to emails sometimes? Like, why does it take a while? Because I am used to, within 48 to 72 hours, always having an email back from any level of, where I'm working. It's not the same, let's say, in this universe.
Well, I will tell you, I come from an older generation, where, to me, email is a secondary line of, actually a tertiary line of communication.
Okay.
First line, face-to-face, sitting down, talking to the person. You can read their body language, you can read their face, their expression, the tonality change, and such, and say, okay, my message isn't resonating, let me change that.
Right.
The second line of communication would be through telecommunications. Pick up the darn phone and talk to somebody. And, third line, emails, they serve their purpose. For my generation, they don't really serve the purpose, because somebody sends an email, hey, why did you do this? I don't understand. And it's like, why'd I do what?
Right.
But if you're talking to them in person, you're talking to them on the phone, you can say, could you help me understand what I did that was bad? Oh, it really wasn't that bad. I just wanted to know why you approached it this way, as opposed to 15 emails going back and forth with that. And I've learned I have two younger men, my sons, that if I want to talk to them, I send them a text.
Okay, sure.
And, it's quick little, hey, what's up? I'll get an answer back immediately. If I make it more than 3 sentences, I never hear back. Or, just like, need to talk.
Right.
Boy, they're like, what's up? And we have great conversations.
Sure.
But, it's also a change. Some people attribute it to, the whole COVID outbreak. A lot of things changed during that time.
Right.
As well, and communication, I think, did not fare very well. And we're slowly getting back, in my opinion, maybe it's my wishfulness, getting back to better, proper communications, and talking, and it's kind of like there's a GIF out there, graphical image out there that said, this meeting could have been an email.
Right. Yes.
So it does go both ways.
Yeah.
If you're conveying quick information and like that, sure, emails, texts are a great way to go. If you're just being informative.
Yeah.
But if you're asking questions, you're asking for help, you're asking for information and like that, I am a true believer, face-to-face or secondary, pick up that phone to find out what's going on.
Yeah, and I ask that because it's not just me. I know people that either have seen what I'm doing or seen what others are doing and have been inspired to get involved themselves, but when they reach out to a local organization, or they reach out to some company they may have seen on TV,
Right.
hypothetically, they don't get a response, and so they get discouraged, and so the energy, and there's no momentum created.
Right, and that's really one of the things we are working towards with this podcast, is to get the information out there. And I'm going to ask you, we have all sorts of social media out there.
Yep.
Most of it good, some of it not so great. But how can people connect with you and your organizations via social media to get more information, to start that communication with you?
Absolutely. At A Kidney Life. Simple. So everything, whether it's LinkedIn, it's / A Kidney Life, Instagram, TikTok, it's at A Kidney Life.
Oh, you do TikToks too?
I'm not dancing.
Oh.
I'm not dancing. Let me clarify. Whatever videos I have on Instagram, I just post them on TikTok too. Now, if you want to do a dance together, we'll discuss after this, but yeah.
As I told you last year, I do this because I have a face made for radio.
Okay. I do remember you telling me that.
not for public viewing and such. That's fantastic. You used to have a podcast. You still run your podcast?
Yes. So I'm lining up guests as we speak. I no longer have a co-host. It's just me, but I am lining up guests. Actually, I would love to have you on for an episode. I think we'd have another great conversation, as we always do. And you can also let people know what Eurofins Viracor is up to in the transplant world. I think it'd be very informative, and I know we'd have fun, which is the main thing, because I think a lot of content, especially in longer form, is boring.
Right.
I mean, we're here at World Transplant Congress. I've been to a few symposiums, and as a patient, it seems like it's geared for doctors by doctors. And that's another frustrating part, by the way, is I think in a lot of these symposiums, if they had one patient and 3 doctors or 2 doctors, whatever the case may be, and whatever subject matter is being discussed, a patient also gives their input to show that we're more than just a data point.
Right.
Don't use us only during the clinical trials and say that that's our patient perspective. We deserve a seat at the table every step of the way, because every drug that's being developed, every diagnostic tool that's being developed, we are the endpoint, and we need to keep that front of mind.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're doing here too in our booth at 820, is we've got 3 video screens where we present case studies. So patient, this was the presentation, they were started on XYZ, medications, protocols, whatever, and then through use of therapeutics and diagnostics, by the results that are generated from that particular test based upon what they're looking for, then they're either amplified or decreased the therapeutic regimen. Maybe they had to change it because there was resistance. I mean, organisms out there that cause disease in transplant patients mutate. They change, they can build up resistance. So what was good yesterday may not be so good today.
Sure.
And as one thing we look at with Eurofins Viracor is, let's not look at today. Let's look at tomorrow, and maybe the 2 days, 3 days afterwards,
right,
and figure something out that can help out. I mean, our goal is, it says in our vision statement, it's not a tube of blood that comes in.
Right.
That accession number represents a patient and their family.
Yes.
And we keep that in mind as we're doing our testing. That's why we strive to get our results out as fast as possible, to make sure they're accurate and they're actionable to the clinicians, and so they improve the patient's life, which is what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the simplest way is more hugs, right? That's
Can never get enough hugs.
Right. So it's amazing work you guys are doing. I know you and I had offline spoken about the TTV initiative and immunosuppression load, and your cell-free DNA testing and everything. So I commend you guys on all the research you're doing and all the work you're doing. Patients like myself really appreciate it, and again, I'm here to amplify what I see here to the patient population as much as I can, and also to the parents of the kiddos that I speak to, and let them know that there's hope because of companies like Eurofins.
Well, thank you very much. I think that's going to wrap us up for our time we've got today. Pleasure talking to you always, whether it's on the radio or walking around a trade show floor, or if we bump into each other on a street.
That's right.
We're going to sit down and have a good conversation. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And after we get off the air, I need a hug.
Absolutely. You got it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on social media to stay up to date on all the latest information. If you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends and colleagues to subscribe too. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Podbean, and more. With over 40 years of diagnostic innovation and specialized expertise in infectious disease, pre- and post-transplant, allergy and immunology testing for immunocompromised and critical patients, Eurofins ViraCore is committed to helping medical professionals, transplant teams, and reference labs get results faster when it matters most. ViraCore is passionate about delivering value to our clients by providing timely, actionable information, never losing sight of the connection between the testing we perform and the patients you serve.